It's another episode of Alt Mic. My name is Dr. Roy, and joining me in the studio is Akula Teso. Akula Teso is the convener of Tea Progressive Congress, and he will be joining me to discuss the continuation of the previous conversation around who are those behind the killings in Benue State and Plateau. So, welcome to Hot Mic, Mr. Akula Teso.
Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers.
All right. So, I would like to ask you. You know, you were supposed to be on this podcast previously, but you were kind of indisposed. But today, I would like us to hit the nail on the head. Who do you think are behind this spate of killing in Benue State and Plateau? Plateau and Benue State are two different states, yes, but they share similarity in terms of this spate of killing. You know, the way of operation. You get to hear that armed people come to attack them in their sleep at night, and similar thing happens all the time in Benue State. So, who do you think are behind? Because I know that those who are behind the Benue have hand in one. Those one have hand in the one of Plateau State. So, who do you think?
Okay, so thank you, Roy. It's good to be here. I regret I wasn't here the last time I was supposed to.
You don't have any regret. You are here now.
But I'm here now.
Yeah.
Okay, so to answer that question, I will drag the discussion back a little bit. There's a young man who is late now.
Yeah.
His name is Ghana Tewasi Agwaza. And he made a revelation around 2018 that he was approached by some Fulani people, and he was trained in Chad, Niger, and then they gave out a list of states that they wanted to take over, Benue and Plateau, like you mentioned.
Wow.
One of the two of the states that were mentioned, and he was given, he was asked for a budget to take over Benue, and he told them ₦1 billion, and they offered 350 million. Well, he said 350 million naira was too small to settle the security apparatus and then to execute the violence. So he turned it down. And so that is the background, and that is the closest we've come to understanding who the funders are. But then there's evidence. So the question is, who is the beneficiary of that crisis? So in answering who the beneficiary of the crisis are, you're going to unveil who the sponsors are.
Wait a minute. This is a big expose that you just dropped. I mean, this is huge. Can you go over again? Who was that guy that was invited and gave an offer to take over Benue State and Plateau State? Who was this guy? And is he Nigerian?
His name is Tewasi Agwaza. We call him Ghana.
From Benue State?
From Benue State, from Katsina local government in Benue State, from Bishi in Katsina local government in Benue State. He was a militia leader. And so he was offered training, not just money, but training by the Fulani. And it was clear, he said the Fulani. So he went to Niger for training. He went to Chad for training. And then he came back, and then he was asked the budget he would need to take over Benue State. And he said ₦1 billion, but they offered 350, and he said it was not okay. So he now refused the offer. And then he said that they have point men for every state that they want to take over from them. In the middle belt, they have sponsors of those states.
All right. So wait a minute. So they train people in the state that they want to take over. They will take the indigene of the state and train the indigene to become as a mole to sell out his or her people to them, or to take over their land for them.
Yeah, so there's always value when you get somebody on your team who understands the terrain of where you're going to execute violence.
Okay.
So in this case, I believe that they believe that he was the one. He already had a history.
Okay, you already had that violent history among the people. That he command terror.
Yeah, he was dealing with arms. He was, kidnapping, and he was doing all kinds of atrocities using violence. And so he was a very good bride for them to use. And so they offered him that training and the funding. And so, but then the question is, he is late now. He was killed by the military. He was wanted for about 4 years. And then when he gave up himself, he was shot in a very cowardly manner.
Wow.
The military killed him. And then nobody knows where he's buried.
So please, let's go back to how the military found out. He was called by the Fulani men, guys, elders, to sell out his people to them. In fact, because he had the tendency to be violent and all that. Then later on, he turned down the offer because the money was not okay to sell out his people.
Yes.
Now, did he go back? Because if he turned down the money, then he shouldn't have hand in all these killings. And then how did military people discover that is capable of selling out the people, or it might be the brain behind it?
Okay, so now he was not killed because he's selling out the people.
Okay.
If you remember, the Otom government did an amnesty program.
Okay.
And this Ghana was the poster boy of the amnesty. But the government in Benue State, the government did not follow through the promise.
Okay.
And so he relapsed into violence again.
Okay.
And so he was a wanted man for over 5 years. And then they couldn't find him. But then the government crafted another amnesty.
Okay.
And persuaded him, used the religious leaders, the traditional leaders to persuade him to come out.
Wow.
So after persuasion, he now came out.
Oh.
And then he was on the convoy from Katsina to Makurdi. In the middle of the road, the military hijacked the convoy, removed him and some others and shot them. Oh. So it was not that they saw that he was betraying
his people. Okay.
So they came for him.
All right. So he was never part of the killing by the Fulani.
As a matter of fact, when he was alive, the level of incursion into Benue State around that axis was checked.
Because they knew that he would counter their
Somebody
plans.
was there to counter their plans, and somebody understood their strategy. Remember, he was part of their training.
Yeah.
So he will understand their way of operation.
So his death has created the loopholes for them to operate, right?
Yes. And what his death did was that it created Hydra heads because he had generals under him. So at his death, everybody broke away. And so you had variations of,
So among them are those who actually... So among them are those who sell out, right?
Yes. In fact, in one of the attacks in Ukum, they were saying full fire and all the other militia in that area for having a hand in the incursion in the local government as of that time. But to be honest, I think the issue is a little bit bigger than Ghana.
Okay. But there is no way you will discuss this matter that his name will not come up.
Yeah.
That was why you started with him.
Yeah, you cannot.
It's not actually that is the brain behind or was the mastermind. So let's continue this conversation.
So you need to look at who is the biggest beneficiary of this incursion, of this killing, to place your bet on who the sponsors are. In my own opinion, and from the evidence that we have, is clearly the people who have cows, the Meiti Allah. And it is sad because they have come out to claim responsibility and even given ultimatum or given conditions for peace to return to those areas. And they go on national TV to issue these conditions. All
right, sorry, let me cut you short. You mentioned Meiti Allah.
Yes.
So how did he come in, please? Please go over again.
So I think that from evidence, right, to answer who the beneficiaries are of this crisis,
massacre.
To answer who the sponsors of this crisis are, you need to ask who the beneficiaries are.
Exactly. You need to identify. We need to know them.
The beneficiaries, and clearly, the cattle herders are the primary beneficiaries of the crisis.
Of course.
But then it's also a step higher than that, because the body responsible for the cattle rearing in Nigeria have come out to claim responsibility not once, not twice of attacks, and they have come out to issue conditions for peace to happen, including in Benue State and in Plateau State. They go on national TV and say for peace to reign in these locations, this is A, B, C, D must be done. In Benue State, they said that the law against open grazing must be repealed. And then these people go away scot-free. So you don't have to look for a torchlight to look for who the sponsors are. There they are, claiming responsibility and benefiting from it. So if you want to ask who the beneficiaries are, I would point you to Meiti Allah.
Okay.
And they are not shy about it.
All right.
And that's first.
Okay.
The other line of beneficiaries are those who are doing nothing to the crisis, to abate the crisis, who have the constitutional responsibility to stop the crisis, but they are not doing
and
so.
Who are those?
They are the government, the politicians, the military.
Exactly.
So they are also beneficiaries of the crisis.
Good.
If they are not, then it should stop.
Exactly.
And there are evidence to show for this.
Exactly. So now let me ask you, were there a time that the government or any agency at all called for dialogue between the Miyetti Allah, because it's a figure now, Miyetti Allah and his people with Benue, especially Chief community, because I think Chief community are the most affected communities in Benue State. Was there a time the dialogue opportunity were created for you guys to
There was dialogue. There has been dialogue,
this.
And there's always dialogue. 3
Okay.
weeks ago, the military held a dialogue session with Meiti Allah in a hotel in Makurdi.
In the presence of Chief.
No, this was a dialogue persuading them to stop their activities. But
to drop their arms.
Yes, there are meetings. Recently, the Toti was in a meeting with Meiti Allah. There have been dialogue meetings. We have come for trainings here for development partners.
Okay.
Because at the point they gave it the nomenclature that it was a farmer headers crisis.
Okay.
That is not true.
That is not true.
It is not a farmer headers crisis. It is a genocide. It is killing.
It's an ethnic cleansing.
Killing people to take over their resources.
That is where I'm heading. What is the root cause of all this? What do they want? What do they say they want? Because that's what should form the basis for the dialogue.
So to say what they want the 1930 open grazing system that gave them access to grazing routes, to be implemented. The question is, the population has exploded. You cannot have grazing routes. There's no way in the world that grazing routes are sustainable. People are ranching their cows all over the world, but they are refusing to ranch their cows. But then there's another dimension to it. There's a dimension of taking over these communities and exploiting the resources of these communities. So it's more than cow rearing that is going on.
Yeah.
When they take over, they sell economic trees, they occupy the houses, they dig the mineral resources in these areas, they farm, they harvest what farmers plant before they leave. So that is a real situation.
So they discovered that there is resources that they can take over on Tiv land.
In fact, the governor of Nasarawa State in the public broadcast said that they find the River Benue attractive. And so they are moving down into the Benue.
So they are chasing those who the original owner of the River Benue banks away.
Yeah, but that has been the operation since they arrived in Nigeria. It happened in Kano, it happened in Sokoto, where they come in, chase the indigenous populations, or do what we call internal colonialism and subject them to their own principles, their rules, their culture, and their religion, and their leadership. That's what has happened to the Hausa people in the north.
Yeah.
So that is what is threatening to happen to the people in the north central. Remember that this is not the first time this is happening. It happened during the jihad.
Yeah.
And it was checkmate around Benue.
Yeah.
So because of Benue, the other
when they were coming, that was why they could not cross over to the south.
Yes.
Benue, because it was former Benue, all these Kogi.
Even before we had Benue,
all these Igala, all of you guys were all Benue before. So you were the one that checkmated them from crossing the River Niger to the south. They wanted to extend. It was a history.
So it's a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
It's a strategy that they want to accomplish by all means, so that even with the creation of modern states and the modern instruments of government, that it does not be able to check that strategy.
Exactly.
And you can find out that, and there's evidence that you can see that it's been happening with the collusion of the military.
Yeah.
And the other agencies.
That's where I'm also headed. Now, there is a video that's gone viral, and the guy called out a military general, like, okay, he was practically cursing him out, like calling him names, that how he has traded their lives, how he has wasted the lives of the private soldiers in Plateau in particular, where he's supposed to actually protect, to protect them from this killing. But the case, the reverse has been the case.
So-
He pushed them to the war front, knowing that they are going to get killed, and leave them there. And in fact, he practically allowed these people to overpower them at their base.
Yeah, but
So why would that happen?
But that is-
Why are they selling out?
that is a strategy. And in Benue,
So you mean some of the Miyetti Allah guys are within the military?
So let me tell you something. Let me tell you a story that happened in Uday about
Okay.
4 weeks ago.
Okay.
They arrested a Fulani militia
Okay.
and was riding the bike of the military guy who was stationed in Uday. And when,
Uday is part of
is Benue State.
Okay.
So when the people of the village protested, the soldiers shot 2 people and injured many for having the bike of the military man who was stationed to protect them. So, we could joke about this. We could play the ostrich about the reality, because then if you go to Makurdi now, there are cells that you have T vigilantes who were arrested by the military for possession of illegal firearms. But there is no one Fulani man in those cells that has been arrested for meting violence on the people. These people follow a particular route to come attack. These people occupy sites in Benue State. As we are talking, their cattle are grazing in places they have pursued people. Why is the military not going after them? Let me tell you something.
Okay.
If somebody dies in your village and your village has been taken over by Fulani,
Yeah.
for you to go and bury that person, you have to pay the military
Yeah.
to take you and protect you to bury that person and leave. And the military will say they cannot stay here more than 5 hours or 3 hours, as the case may be.
Yeah.
So you bury and you pay them for that. So it means that they know where these people are. Why are they not engaging them?
Exactly.
Then in Benue State, a military guy said that they cannot engage them because the orders to engage come from Abuja. And as long as they don't have the orders to engage these people, they will never engage them. And that is that's been happening. So indigenous vigilante people are being arrested for possessing firearms that
to
they are
defend
using to
themselves and
protect
their territory.
their territory. But the people who are netting out the violence are walking free
Wow.
in these territories.
Now, let me ask you, we are about rounding up. Now, let me ask you, why do you think these people have been enjoying this privilege of untouchable, like getting away with all these crimes? Why do you think they are
I
being...
will quote General Sani Abacha.
Okay.
He said that if insurgency survives more than 48 hours,
Okay.
the government has a hand in it.
Hmm.
You cannot threaten the sovereignty of the Nigerian state and get away with it unless the Nigerian state wants you to get away with it. That is the issue.
All right. So now let's not go to how you've been protecting yourself. You need to stay protected, because people can't just be killed. Your people can't just be killed like fowl. They are humans and they are citizens of this country. The same right that these Fulani people have is what your people have. So I think there have to be what is called self-defense at this point.
My people.
So what are you doing to make that happen? I'm not calling for war. I'm not calling for conflict, but you need to stay guarded.
My people right now are not, don't have the privilege of being protected by the Nigerian
I said that because those who are supposed to have the relevant authorities are not taking the proactive steps.
Yes, they are not. So there's no self-defense in Benue as we are talking, because they have eroded all the avenues for self-defense. If they see you with a cutlass, they are going to arrest you. If they see you with a gun, they are going to arrest you. How do you
protect yourself and people? Because they kill children, and that's the most. That's your future.
Kill children and women.
Because that's the future. When you no longer have younger children to grow.
Yeah, and that's a classical example of terrorism. When you want to use fear to persuade the people you are attacking,
or to subjugate them to do your bidding.
So at the end of the day, the Benue people are defenseless. As I'm saying, you completely and totally defenseless. all they need to do, the only thing they need to do to survive now is to run. And that is what we have been doing.
But the guarantee that they will not pursue them if they run is another one, because if you run, they knew you're already scared for your life. So they know you are weak. So that is when they will now strike them all. When you start running, they will follow you. And because they want you guys out of the show. They don't want you to exist. They don't want that people to leave anymore, because they don't want anybody to come and challenge them. Because of what they found. They found gold mine. They find whatever they've seen on that land. Like you said, they want to take over the river bank of Benue, the bank of the river Benue. So if you run, they will chase you, because they know that you only retreated. You have only retreated. And retreat does not mean you surrender. So if you retreat, they might want to go and meet you at where you camped and attack again.
Yeah.
So you need to stay guarded and
well, the truth is we have run and we are running. In Way West, out of the council wards, it's only the one that has the local government headquarters that was not attacked, but it was attacked 4 days ago. And so they have chased everybody, and it's a strategy. They are eroding our resistance abilities and they're chasing us. And we're running and they're occupying the land. And the question is, why is the government allowing that to happen? Why is the government denying people the right to life,
and the right to security,
self-defense,
the right to security, the right to life, and the right to self-defense? Yes. 3 things.
Yes. Why is the government doing that?
Yeah,
the question to the central government is, why is it doing that?
So now that's the essence of this podcast, because we need this message to go out. We need the relevant authority to take action to protect the people of Benue and Plateau State, because if we overlook the Benue and say, okay, it's only Benue, the impact of this attack is already being felt. There is impact on food security right now, because no farmer will have the gut to go and farm. Many of them have been chased away from their land, on their farm, where they inherited something they inherited from their great grandfather, and they've been farming there. They have been sent away. So none of them had the guts to go and make, because even in the farm, the cows will come and eat it up. Aside from being killed, you've eat it up, and who wants to toil in vain? And that is already impacted on our food security. Food prices have gone up, and it's not going down anytime soon. So these are issues that conflict like this metamorphose into, and we are just folding our arms and watching it. Every day, day in, day out. It has extended to Plateau. Now, from there, it has gradually moved to the southwest, because I heard stories of how they attack communities in Ekiti and Ondo, Kogi, and even in Akure. They have to come out en masse to protect that. They must do something, because I think they even surrounded the state in Ondo State. All the hills in those states, they have stationed themselves there. No, I don't know why. I still don't know. No, let me ask you one final question. Why do you think these people are doing what they are doing? What do they want?
They want to.
Is it religious domination, or is it for? Because when they take over your land, to what end?
Well, I think that that question, you must answer it within the nature and character of the people you're dealing with. You're dealing with the people who perpetually want to lord over others and who think that Nigeria is their own. Oh. And every other person is just a visitor, and they can get rid of you when they want to get rid of you. So you're dealing with a hegemony that is not just proud, that is very brutal, that is very organized, whose modus of operandi has been perfected for over 200 years, who understand what it means to take over lands, because they have done that successfully in the north of Nigeria. And you must understand that their ambition has always been to take over the whole of Nigeria. And you are dealing with the people who regard themselves as stateless. You are dealing with the people who have immense resources at their disposal. You are dealing with the people who can organize across West Africa and who have the ability to threaten the hegemony and the sovereignty of every nation. You are dealing with the Fulani people. And you need to understand that it is their nature and character to always roam around and to always dominate.
All right. Now, I like the fact that you mentioned Fulani. Now, there are also misconceptions somewhere from quarters, like that they are not actually Fulani people behind this, that some people have hijacked it to paint Fulani people bad.
That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a big lie. There is no evidence to the contrary. For all the communities attacked, for all the people kidnapped, for everyone apprehended, they have the same distinct ethnicity, Fulani. Let nobody play pranks about this. Let nobody tell you no lies about it. I am not here to brand the people bad, but I'm here to tell you that the people who are perpetuating this act across Nigeria and in Benue State precisely have a distinct identity, and they are Fulani people. Nobody has been able to try to dispute that.
Right.
That's the evidence.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Akula, for coming on Hot Mic today. Honestly, it's been refreshing. These are questions that a lot of people have been willing to ask and get the right answer to, and you have been able to nail it on the head. Because I think at this junction, it's important that we take the bull by the horn and hit the nail on the head and say no to killing of innocent lives, because some people feel they are entitled to their land, to their properties. We must say no to it. We must say no to it, and government and the relevant authority must act now before it's too late. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Hot Mic. Till I come your way again, I remain your host, Dr. Roy. Bye for now.
there's a balance on that. But there are several other programs that there's a balance on that. But there are several other programs that Mr. President had done that had not seen the daylight since, for instance, the Green Imperative Program, the GIP, which is a collaboration program between FGV of Brazil and the Nigerian government, where it seeks to set up in every 774 local governments in the Federation an agricultural service provision center, whether it is in livestock, whether it is in fisheries, whether it's in poultry, whether it's in production or aggregation or marketing, for instance. So in every 774 local governments of Federation, and that seeks to attract, in the initial stage, it's a 950 million euro program, but will seek to attract over the period of 5 years, $4.5 billion. And that is going to be one of the